Hey, good evening. Tonight I'm going to walk through the process of making a scatter plot with you in Microsoft Excel. So first thing I'm going to do is share my screen, and I'm going to pull up some work I've already done in Excel. So the purpose of a scatter plot is to look at where sets of data intersect and how they correlate. So the question that sparked this chart or influenced this chart is there any height and weight correlation in this second period gym class? This question can be important to answer and compare amongst other gym classes to look for trends in childhood obesity or patterns in classes that have extreme height and or weight issues, outliers, could be used for further health-based research. So, question, is there any height and weight correlation in the second period gym class? What I did was I created a table over here, just in the corner of my Excel program. You'll notice weight in pounds and height in inches. And then I went through and listed data sets, how many pounds someone weighed at how many inches tall they were. I highlighted this column for weight in pounds, and then I went over here to sort and filter. So I was able to sort and filter my data, and it organized the pounds in order from lowest to, if you went all the way down my chart, highest. So you can see again, weight is pounds, lowest to highest, and then the corresponding heights can't be measured because we were ordering the weight. The table could have been flipped opposite, and you could have organized by height. It's just a matter of how you want to correlate and what you want to compare. So the next thing I did after that was I highlighted my entire table because I wanted to make this scatter plot. A couple ways you can do it. With your highlighted table and your sorted data, you can come over here to analyze data. And what this does is an automatic function. I really like it. It looks for patterns in your data and then gives you alternate methods for displaying your data. Or you can go about it the old-fashioned, simple way and highlight the data in your table. And then you can look for charts. You see, I'm going to run through the menu and come to insert because that's what I want to do is insert a chart. And then I can look for the different types of charts that I am looking for. You notice there are histograms, line area charts, pie graphs, various different charts. So I'm going to click on Scatterplot for the XY, otherwise known as a bubble chart. And as you can see on the screen, you use this chart to show the relationship between sets of values. So when I picked that, it went through and created this scatter plot for me. You can move these arrows and the corners and the outer dots and the lines, and you can make this chart as big or as small as you wanted to. If you clicked on this, you could set your table up differently. You can organize your dots and how they're displayed. Notice you can change the color of the background. You can have dots like I do, or you can come and have the open bubbles as you see in this blue one. You will notice you can do different types of grid lines. So for this particular chart, there were 12 different options. We just went with the basic standard one. And I clicked on this color, you could see you could pick various sets of colors. We're just going to use the standard. So, excuse me, clicking on this plus, we want to add the chart elements that we want. So Obviously, I wanted my X and Y axes labeled. I wanted to be able to title my axes. My title needs a chart, rather, needs a title. You always need to have a title so your reader knows exactly what they're looking to compare and how they're comparing it. Could have done various things like data labels where it would have specifically mentioned what every single point was, or you could look for the arrow bars, which would show you a range for each part. When the table was first created, it had grid lines, but I went through and removed the grid lines so it's easier to see. I could have inserted a legend here, but this was pretty simple, so it really didn't necessarily need one. And then you can see I added my trend line, so you can kind of look at the trend, which makes sense. In most cases, as the height in inches went up, so did the weight in pounds. So for this chart, you can notice there aren't necessarily very many outliers, otherwise known as astronomical points. You can kind of look, there's one here, but it's really not much of an outlier, which is what you would be looking at is if you had something over here or over here or over here, just completely out of line. So I went through and labeled my axes so I know what's the height, what's the weight, and then I gave my chart this title, Height and Weight of Second Period Gym Class Members. You can always go through on the axes and you can change the values. And you can do the same thing on this axis for the height. Theoretically, you're supposed to have about a third of your table up here to be white space. So I really could have used some more white space. But if you look at the value of numbers, it would have been too busy and too cluttered and too far up here if I would have gone by increments of 10 inches. And if I had just gone through increments of 30 inches, you wouldn't have seen very much. So 15 was the most reasonable. And then as far as weight in pounds, if you look back at our table over here, you can see it varied anywhere from 109 pounds to 200 pounds. So again, without making it too busy or too hard to read, I decided that 50-pound increments would give us a good idea. Remember, both of your corners where your X and Y axes meet need to be labeled 0. So basically, this is how you put together a scatter plot. And just to recap, a scatter plot is the way to look for correlation or relationships between two different sets of data. Thank you for joining me, and we will call it a night.